Welcome to the 10th episode of the Dansportsnews and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Dansportsnews. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Dansportsnews and Instagram at I am Dansportsnews to catch all my latest articles, interviews, and other news in sports. Today's guest is Josh Powell, who is a former basketball player who played for many teams in the NBA and was a two-time champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, and he currently plays in Ice Cube's new basketball league, the Big Three, for the Killer Threes. Check it out. I know you went to NC State. What was it like playing in the ACC against some of the best teams in the country, like Duke? I know Maryland did very well also back then when you were playing. What was it like playing in the ACC basketball?
First and foremost, it was just a huge adjustment. I had to get my body right. I had to get my mind right. As soon as I graduated high school, I literally came straight to college and began working. Started taking classes. Started to eat differently. Had to put on some weight. It was the first time I ever touched weights. Just so many different things, and me getting myself prepared for 5 months later, basically. But it's being that it's the best conference still, in my opinion. Playing against the best competition and really good teams and different styles of play. I learned a lot in my game. I was able to take it to another level, and my IQ was able to go to another level, just being in that conference.
Right. I know, did Maryland win the national championship when you were there?
Yes, I believe they did.
Right, back in 2002.
Maryland, it was Maryland Origin, I think.
Right, back in 2002. I know they had a really good team with Steve Blake. And you also played against Jay Williams at Duke. Was it always battles when you played against those guys and those teams?
Absolutely. You could never take a night off. It was so much talent, not only with the teams, but just individuals. There was a lot of pros that was playing back then in the ACC alone. I think Duke had at least 5 pros, and I could be wrong, 6 pros. Because, Dunleavy, Boozer, Jay Will, they had Dante Jones, Patrick Ewing. Not Patrick Ewing. What's the guard, man? I can't remember his name. But he was a pro. Because he played with the Clippers for a little bit, too. I can't remember his name, though. They had several pros, easy. And that's just on one team. Carolina, when I was a sophomore, I think it's when they had all the freshmen like McCants and all those guys, Raymond Felton, they had Jawad Williams. This was just night after night, playing against Jared Jack, Chris Bosh, Chris Wilcox, Juan Dixon. The list goes on and on and on. So it was never a night to rest because there's always good battles every night.
Right, yeah, that's the heart of a lot of great basketball players were in that early 2000s era. Now, after you played freshman and sophomore year, right? You didn't play junior year?
No, I left school after my sophomore year.
Right. So when you entered the NBA draft, I know you went undrafted, but did you think that you were going to get drafted, or were you surprised that you went undrafted?
I was high up on the draft board, but I was very understanding of the process. I felt that my talent, like I was good enough to get drafted, but it didn't happen. So, the main thing, especially with the agency that I signed with, was just coming up with a plan to pursue my ultimate goal, and that was getting into the NBA.
Right. And I know the 2003 NBA draft was also very stacked. LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and Carmelo Anthony. So that was a very big NBA draft. Now, after you went undrafted, explain what the process is like playing overseas. I know you played with a couple teams. What was that like overseas?
I felt that it got me prepared because I was a 19-year-old kid that went from playing in the ACC to basically playing against grown men. And the things that I had to do to just prepare, get my body right, just keep working, and just understanding, the pro game and how different that's played. Because college is, you going like 200 miles an hour. I mean, everything is just, you feel like you're doing it at the maximum effort. And then when you start playing professional, you start understanding pace. You start understanding when to do certain things, when not to do them, how you make reads, how you guard, pick and rolls, and how you guard guys in one-on-one situations. I mean, it's just all those things.
Right. And you played how many years overseas before the Mavericks picked you up?
Basically, like a year and a half. Because I was with the Mavericks first, and then they released me. I did a half a season overseas, did summer league, did a whole season, and then I got back in.
Right. So when the Mavericks picked you up, you went into the NBA Finals your first year in the NBA. What was that whole experience like going to the finals in just your first year in the NBA?
That was my first full season. But I just think, playing alongside of some of the Hall of Famers that I was able to play with, and just getting that tutelage from them, and then, Avery Johnson was our coach. We had Coach Dell. I mean, we had other coaches who had been a part of the game and had a lot of knowledge, and things like that on the game, and just being able to learn and pick up those things. So for me, outside of the wow factor of like, man, I'm finally here, like again, and I'm a part of this thing, and not only that, but being able to go to the finals out the first year, and that should have been the first ring, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, just that whole year, I couldn't ask for a better year, and not only that, but I had my first child that year, my daughter. So it was just a huge lesson across the board. Just so many different things that I experienced that had happened to me in such a short amount of time.
Right. And like you said, some of those great players you played alongside, Dirk Nowitzki, Jerry Stackhouse, Jason Terry, just to name a few. What was it like being around those great players in the locker room, on the court, off the court?
I mean, it was just a huge family. It was a huge family. And the things that I learned, not only as a player, but as a young man, that I still take with me to this day. And just picking up those things and that foundation, and a lot of those really good work habits, because I was a part of, for example, Dirk's, working out with him, seeing how he operates, watching how he takes care of himself, picking his brain, picking up some of his post moves, or some of the ways that he goes about, getting a bucket. Just so many things from so many different guys. I mean, some of the guys, like Marquise Daniels, Josh Howard, who still like brothers to this day, and just some of our battles, like me learning how to guard guards, and using those things to help me become more versatile. So now I can, my value is a lot different because I'm able to guard multiple positions, which is, there's value in that. I mean, it's just certain things that I've learned and from certain guys that, you know, it's just still to this day are things that I take with me, whether on or off the court.
Right. Now, after that season with the Mavericks, they let you go and you played overseas after that?
No. After that, I got traded to Indiana.
And what was it like playing in Indiana? Steven Jackson was there, right? Meta World Peace?
Yeah, well, I was in a very unique situation because I got traded to a team that had 15 fully guaranteed contracts, and I worked my ass off that summer. And I mean, God bless the Pacers, but I mean, they basically cut their first round pick to keep me because of how well I performed during the preseason and the off season. And you know, something like that isn't heard of, but you know, again, I feel like that goes to my work ethic and just how I am as a person and how I've always been throughout my career, and just constantly working and constantly getting better and having a good attitude and just showing up every day. And a lot of times, you know, those things pay off dividends in the long run. So it was a blessing, you know, being able to play with those guys because, again, I'm being able to get tutelage from, you know, great players. I mean, you got, you know, Steven Jackson, you got Jermaine O'Neal. I learned a lot from Jeff Foster. I mean, Jamal Tinsley, Al Harrington, Marquise was traded there with me. Darren Longshaw was traded there with me. Ron Marshall was traded there with me. David Harrison. I mean, it was just that whole group of guys. And I know every day as many battles as me and Jermaine had. You know, he bruised my rib cage. He used to beat me up pretty good, but I just fought through it. You know, it was just a different level of toughness that I was able to get in those battles. And then learning the game from him, you know, post play, footwork. I mean, just certain things. So I went from getting that from Dirk to now a whole different dynamic of a player in Jermaine O'Neal. So just the things that I was able to learn from all of those guys for another season.
Right. That's something that not a lot of young players get to experience, being around veteran leadership and just showing them the ins and outs of the game of basketball. So then you go to the Warriors. Was it next after that?
Yeah, we got traded mid-season to the Warriors.
And then you were only there for a little bit before going to the LA Clippers?
Basically from January to the end of the season.
Right. So what was it like being on the LA Clippers? I know now they're doing very well, building up, but back then they weren't as great. They were LA's second team. What was it like in that situation?
I'm most grateful for the Clippers because out of all the teams that I played for, I got the most amount of minutes and was able to showcase my talent the most with the Clippers because of injuries and because of whatever else. I mean, I was able to play. I was starting at the end of the year, playing like 30 to 35 minutes a game. So I was able to really like showcase my talent there, and I'm forever grateful for that because of my time there. That's what helped set up the LA Lakers situation.
Right. Now with the Clippers, I heard a story that they didn't have a practice facility and had to practice another place else. What was that like?
At the Spectrum. I mean, we was practicing at the Spectrum. It's just like going to any fitness club. It's just different. You don't have your own privacy, no nothing. You walking into the locker room exposed or whatever. You know, just like it would be any other lock on. You know what I mean? You don't really have your privacy and things like that. But at the same time, man, the people there were amazing. You know, they didn't. They allowed us our space. You know what I mean? They respected our space, and it was a good environment the time that I was there.
Now, were there any, like, fans that were there, like, maybe playing pickup basketball before that, like, ran onto your practices and said anything?
No, because we had the time blocked off. They would block off the court for us.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to disturb your local NBA team's practice, because you want them to do well. But after that, you go...
Yeah, but people don't do that.
Right. Now, after that, you stay in LA, but you go to the LA Lakers, one of the best, if not the best franchise in NBA history. What was it like when you heard you were going to the Lakers?
I mean, it's really all God, because it's crazy that Ronnie Turioff had just signed a 3-year deal with the team that I had been with a year and a half prior to, and they gave me a shot one morning because the Clippers released me. So I was on a 3-year deal. They released me after my first year. And, I mean, I literally flew out to L.A. I didn't eat breakfast. It was like last minute everything. I had the first flight out. And as soon as I got off the plane, it was go straight into the workout. And, I mean, I hadn't slept, nothing. And God is good, because I went in there and took care of it. And they literally offered me a contract, like, right then and there, pretty much. And I was able to get a partial guarantee off of a 2-year situation. So, I mean, nothing is like playing for that organization. You know, I know they're in a situation now where it's, you know, dysfunctional and a lot of things up in the air, but the tradition there, the type of pedigree that's set there, that culture, the winning culture, like championships, the purple and gold, like, it's just a big thing. And I never experienced that anywhere. Because no matter at home games, obviously in LA you get love, but then there would be so many Lakers fans in other teams' arenas. And it was just crazy that so many nights, like, we would get louder cheers than the home team.
Right. Well, I am a Lakers fan. I'm from New Jersey, but I've always been a Lakers fan. Always supported them. And we will get in a little bit later about some of the stuff going on with them now. But back in 2009, you know, you win your first NBA championship against the Orlando Magic. What is that like, finally being an NBA championship after you suffered defeat back with the Mavericks, but now you finally get your first ring? What was that experience like?
I mean, it's like a dream come true. I was just always, for me, I think the biggest thing for me is just knowing that I'm still in the league. I think that's the one thing that I'm grateful for every day that I wake up, is just knowing that I'm still a part of this beautiful league. And it's another thing to know not only did we get to the championship again, but we won it. And along with winning it, I had just had another daughter, a couple of months prior to that. So, like, my family's growing. I had 2 beautiful young ladies, and winning the championship. So it was like, man, I had a hell of a year. And
Right.
it's crazy because every time I went to the finals, I had a child born that same year.
Wow. Truly a blessing.
Every time, literally, because my son was born the next year, and we won it that year. So it's crazy that each one of these children were a part of finals seasons.
Right. What was that experience like, defeating the Boston Celtics in 7 games to win that second championship?
As far as winning the second championship, man, that was like a huge monkey off our backs. I can't really speak for how people felt beating Boston. I do understand the dynamic, but I think some of those other guys that was there 2 years prior, when they got beat by Boston, I definitely would think that it was special for them. Because I could only imagine if I was on the team when the Mavericks finally did win it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got a chance to beat the team that beat them.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine how that feels. And then Kobe, D. Fish, those two, I know that had to have been really special for them. I mean, for Powell too, but Kobe and D. Fish had played so many years in that Lakers uniform. They've been they're a part of that culture. Like, they know what that means for that purple and gold to go against that green. And that's just a whole different feeling, and it's a whole different vibe. So for those two guys, you can tell it was heavy. You can tell that sigh of relief because, Kobe didn't have his best game 7. And he was that anxious, he wanted it so bad. And just thank God for Ron and Powell. I mean, everybody, it was a total team effort, but I just know that had to have been for his legacy to get that one back. It had to have been a great film.
Right, that was redemption, losing in 2008 to the Celtics, then coming back to beat them in 2010. But what was it like playing with all those great players? Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum, Kobe Bryant, Derek Fisher, Ron Artest. What was it like being in the locker room and being with those great players?
In the locker room, again, I just keep talking about family. I look at the most successful teams I've been a part of, and that's the one word that comes to mind is just family. And it showed on the court as well, obviously, because of the success we had. As far as playing-wise, I mean, I've talked about that early on, but it's like I'm getting tutelage from all of these greats, all of these future Hall of Famers, all of these guys who have been great their whole careers. And this year, I got a chance to learn from Lamar Odom. I got a chance to learn from Kyle Gasol. I got a chance to learn from Andrew Bynum. I got a chance to learn from Derek Fisher. I got a chance to learn from Phil Jackson. I got a chance to learn from Kobe Bryant. I mean, the battles we had, the practices we had, the attention to detail, the way we worked, how hard we worked. I mean, it's just so much, like I said, the things that I take with me to this day. Because I understand what it takes to get to that level and that point. I understand what it takes to win, playing the right way, doing the right thing. I mean, it's just different. It's just different.
Was Kobe Bryant the hardest worker you ever seen?
Outside of myself, yeah. I would like to say that, but I'm not going to discredit some of the other guys I've watched work too. Whether it was him, Dirk put in that type of work ethic. My short time with the Pacers, I saw, Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Zach. Like, I just seen guys that put work in. But Kobe, like, not only was it his work ethic, it's his attention to detail and why he does the things that he does. Whether it's for him or it's psychologically doing it for other purposes. I mean, that guy was just a monster, and he was relentless.
Right. Now, do you think that if Kobe went 7-0 in NBA Finals, didn't have those 2 losses, do you think he would be considered better than Michael Jordan?
For the other people arguing it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's one of the first things they say is, well, Mike never lost in the final. So obviously he would have more rings. Can't dispute that. And then if he goes 7-0, then that kills whatever, the other argument was. So yeah, I believe that'll lay that to bed. I would think, but who knows? Because nowadays they're starting to put asterisks beside people's championships, as if winning championships is so easy nowadays. It's just crazy to me that how do you discredit somebody's championship? I don't believe in that.
Right. Exactly. Now, after the Lakers, I know you played some years overseas. What was it like, again, playing overseas, playing in China, playing in Europe? What is that experience like?
Just developing a different style of play, being able to adjust, not only to on the court things, but off the court things. It just puts things in a different perspective because your roles change. If you're in Europe, you're more of a team guy. Then it depends on where you play at outside of Europe and what your role is. China has different expectations than Australia. Australia has different expectations than the Philippines, and the Philippines is different from Italy, and the list goes on. So, I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you're a player that can adjust to certain things, then, that, again, talk about value, it just raises your value at another level.
Right. Now, I know in Australia you played for a team by the name of the Sydney Kings. I just know from being a basketball fan and watching, I know the Sydney Kings, that's the only Australian team I know. I know they're a very big team. Lots of former NBA players have played there. Even guys coming up in the NBA like Brian Bowen. But what was it like playing for the Sydney Kings? How big are they out there in Australia?
I'm sure they're a lot bigger now, but it's like Sydney Kings, Melbourne, and Perth, I would say, are the three biggest teams, I would say. But playing out there, man, the atmosphere is extremely fun. It's family dynamic. I mean, Australia is the shit. I don't really know no other way of saying it. There's just so much to do there. It's a beautiful country with beautiful people. I definitely enjoyed my time there. But being a part of that purple and gold was cool. I definitely enjoyed my time there. I know when my kids came, they enjoyed their time. Like my family came, they enjoyed their time there. And basketball was fun. It was competitive, very competitive. I also enjoyed the physicality of the league there. And it's just a different brand of basketball.
Now, with playing overseas, is your family there? Did they stay home with you? Did they make the journey out to all the countries you played, or what happened there?
They just, when they got older, they just came to visit when they had a break. They was in school. So other than that, I was by myself.
Okay. So, I know you're playing in the Big Three now. We'll get into that a little bit later. But did you officially retire from basketball, or is there a chance you're going to play in another pro league again outside of the Big Three?
I highly doubt it. I think the Big Three will be my only situation, unless it's something that I just can't refuse. Like if I get paid to go play in a playoff series that's 2 or 3 weeks, stuff like that, man. As long as I don't have to miss too much time with my kids, like I'm good. It's all good.
Right. Well, I know you're definitely still in shape. Played in the Big Three last year. What's it like playing in Ice Cube's new basketball league?
Fun. Very competitive. Fun. It's physical. It's like that old school all of it's like that old school style of play. And I think that's what not only the league, but playing overseas has helped me with, because you just play through anything. You're not worried about fouls or anything like that. You just play through it.
And what's it like playing in a 3-on-3 setting, half-court basketball?
It's different. That spotlight is on you. And if you can't defend, you will get embarrassed. So it's definitely a pride thing. It's a great league. It's very physical. You know, it's like a family there. It's just a different way to play.
Right, and I know you're on the Killer of Threes. Charles Oakley is the coach. And Steven Jackson, you're reunited with him. And Al Harrington. Yes. Al Harrington, too.
Al has officially retired from the Big Three, from my understanding.
Oh, I didn't know about that. And is Franklin Session also on that team you're on?
Yes.
Oh, right. I've seen his mixtapes. A great player to play in the Drew League. 3-time Drew League MVP. And I know Chauncey Billups was on your team last year, but he's not this year. But Frank Sessions, he will help with the scoring, taking Chauncey's place.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a prediction for the Big Three? How far do you think your team's going to go? I know last year was a little bit of a disappointment, but do you think you can go all the way this year?
Yeah, I want to win the chip. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. I want to win it all.
All right, no doubt about that. Now, can you talk a little bit about your foundation, 21 Reasons to Give Back? I've seen some old videos from like 10 years back. How long have you been doing your charity, and what got you started in doing it?
Before I got my foundation in 2010, I was doing a lot of charity work regardless. But I just made it official when I started doing my own thing in 2010. So I would like to say, since I turned pro, I've been pretty much doing community service. And I wanted to come up with something that's a little different. You know, I know that foundations want you to focus solely on one thing. My heart doesn't work that way. You know, I want to do multiple things and be able to focus on and give back. So that's why you have the 21 reasons to give. My heart is so big, and I just want to be able to give in so many different ways.
Right. I've seen the videos. You're doing some great things there with that. Now, one more thing back to the Big Three. Is there a team, a matchup that you're looking forward most to playing against?
Honestly, every night, man. All the teams are stacked. They got good talent, good coaching. So it's really hard to say.
Okay, now, in your whole basketball career, who would you say was the toughest player to play against, to guard, and who was the toughest team that you played against?
Toughest team to play against. That Denver team was crazy. What? What are you drinking at? All right. The Denver team had AI, Kmart, Birdman, JR, like that team. Melo, that team, that's crazy. Chauncey,
Kenyon Martin?
The Detroit team, those were some good battles because they still had Big Ben, Rasheed, Rip. That OKC team, because we was catching the young OKC team when they had everybody. Portland always gave us trouble, especially going into Portland. San Antonio, sheesh, that's back when they definitely had the big three in company. Let me think. I want to say Houston too because that's back during the Yao era. They had Yao, Steve Francis. They had a nice little whip.
Right, Steve Francis had, in my opinion, I think Steve Francis was one of the most athletic players in the history of the game.
Nah, he definitely was crazy.
Now, you actually had a coaching position with the Houston Rockets, right?
Yes.
What was that like being on the other side of the ball?
I learned a lot, and I learned what goes on in that front office. You know what I'm saying? I learned you just being a part of those meetings and understanding, certain things. Just seeing how things were unfolding. It was a great learning experience because you learning the game from a different angle. And, being a part of the schemes and all of that stuff. I just picked up a lot of tools during that coaching year. And, we also went to the Western Conference Finals, too, so it's not a bad thing.
Right. Now, is that something you'd be interested in pursuing in the future, being a coach, a head coach maybe, or another?
If it's the right thing. It's got to be the right thing.
Right. Now, last question.
Because I don't want to ever do anything half-assed and not be able to, really learn it. So.
Right. Now, one last thing before we wrap it up. What are your top 5 most iconic shoes, in your opinion? What were your top 5 favorite shoes?
Top 5 favorite shoes? Well, first and foremost, the Jordan 1s are the best shoes ever. So just get that straight. My favorite pair are the ones he got fined for. So hands down, the Jordan 1s, best pair. Number 2 on my list would be Vans. I'm a huge fan of Vans.
Which kind of
and
Vans?
Some of their skate highs, skate lows, original lows, slip-ons. Pretty hot. And let's see, that's 2. My third pair would be Kobe's. I do wear those on and off the court.
Which Kobe specifically?
The 4s, the 5s, 6s, the 8s. And it's just the 4, 5, and 6 automatically too much heat. It's so saucy. And that's the shoe that I've worn on and off the court.
Right.
Air Force Ones, I'd have to put it as a classic shoe. But they got them now. They so saucy, like it's crazy. One more. I would have to say Penny Hardaway. He had a crazy collection with his feet. His stuff was hard. So I would say those 5 right there.
Okay. That's a pretty solid rotation. I like it.